didn't refer to themselves by that name. In reality, a Yoruba person or language didn't exist before 1843. There were only Ijebus, Egbas, Oyos, Ijeshas, Ekitis, and so on.
Káwo máàpù yìí, káwo date tó wà ńbẹ̀ 1789. Níbi tí wọ́n kọ 1789 sí, map showing Yoruba land. Ẹ wo ibi tí wọ́n kọ da omi sí. Wọ́n kọ and whither 1727. Kí ni máàpù yìí sọ fún wa? Máàpù yìí ó ń show gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, gbogbo ibi tó ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ ẹ̀wọ̀n, ibi tí wọ́n kọ 1789 yẹn gan sí, ibi tí wọ́n kọ da omi sí, ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, gbogbo ibẹ̀ yẹn ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni. Ṣẹ́rí, ilẹ̀ Yorùbá gbogbo ẹ̀ pátápátá. Yìí lọ sí Benin, Benin, ilẹ̀ Yorùbá gbogbo ẹ̀. Orúkọ wo ni wọ́n kọ sí ibi tí wọ́n kọ da omi sí, lábẹ́ da omi? Tó wọ́n pé and whither 1727. Kí ni meaning whither? Òun ni wọ́n ń pè ní Judah ní English. Òun ni wọ́n ń pè ní Judah ní English. French wọ́n fi kọ́ yìí, whither. French wọ́n fi kọ́. Tá bá tún lọ sí ibi tí da omi wà, ìsàlẹ̀ ìdà omi pátápátá, kí ni wọ́n tún kọ? Wọ́n tún kọ whither. Wọ́n tún kọ whither. Òun náà ni Yorùbá. The same Yorùbá, whither. Orúkọ kan náà ló jẹ́. Ṣùgbọ́n ní ancient Yorùbá bóyé sọ, yehudah òun ni wọ́n ń pè Yorùbá ní ancient Yorùbá, òun ní ancient Hebrew. Níbi tí yóò wà yìí ní ancient Hebrew, òun ni wọ́n fi a sí, wọ́n fi a síbẹ̀, yé. Níbi tí rú wà yìí, wọ́n fi hu síbẹ̀, ó di yehu, yoru, yehu. Ibi tí báyìí wà yìí, wọ́n fi da síbẹ̀, d tó wà lẹ́ni whither, ó ní ba. Bọ́yẹ translate Yorùbá sí yehudah sí Yorùbá nìyẹn, whither sí Yorùbá, Judah sí Yorùbá, ọ̀nà tó fi wá nìyẹn. So gbogbo region yìí pátápátá, ilẹ̀ Yorùbá gbogbo ẹ̀ pátápátá. Kí ni wọ́n ń pè? Land of Judah. Nígbà táwọn òyìnbó wá kó wa lẹ́rú, Land of Judah. Gbogbo region yìí pátápátá títí dé Benin, ilẹ̀ Yorùbá gbogbo ẹ̀. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá gbogbo ẹ̀. Kí ni wọ́n ń pè? Land of Judah. Àwa ni ẹ̀yà yehudah, ẹ̀yà Yorùbá, ẹ̀yà Judah. Ó ṣe pàtàkì fún wa láti mọ orúkọ tá ń jẹ́ nígbà ìwáṣẹ̀. Báwo òkè wọ́n kọ Negro land. Kí ni Negro land mean? The same thing. Nigeria. Ó mọ̀ pé Negro land, Nigeria náà ló mean. Niger area, Nigeria. The land of the Negroes. Many ẹnìyẹn, the land of the Negroes. The land of the Negroes. Kí ló dé tí wọ́n ṣe ń pè wá ní Negro? Nítorí pé àwa tá wà ní West Africa, South Africa, East Africa, àwa ni ọmọ Israeli tó yẹ pé a migrate wá láti ilẹ̀ Israeli wá sí West Africa, South Africa àti East Africa láti create a new country títorí àwọn invaders tí wọ́n wá invade wa ní orílẹ̀-èdè Israeli. so reason tán fi ń pè wá ní negro land ni pé oríṣi dúdú méjì ló wà. Àwọn dúdú kan Nilotic, àwọn ló wà ní Sudan, àwọn ló wà ní Somali, wọ́n wà ní Ethiopia náà. Tẹ́ bá rí wọn, àwọn máa ń dúdú, dúdú wọn máa ń deep, àwọn máa ń jẹ́ jet black làwọn, Nilotic black. Wọ́n yàtọ̀ sí àwa tí wọ́n ń pè ní negro. Wọ́n ń pe àwọn ní negro nítorí pé àwọn ọmọ Israeli nìkan ni ìran negro. Àwa ọmọ Israeli, àwa nìkan ni ìran negro. Lẹ́yìn àwa ọmọ Israeli kò sí ìran míì tó tún jẹ́ negro mọ́. Àwọn ọmọ Israeli tó kù tó yẹ pé wọ́n ti mix máwọn orílẹ̀-èdè, àwọn ni wọ́n wà ní South America, àwọn Native America. Ìran Israeli náà ni wọ́n, ṣùgbọ́n àwọn ti mix gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọ̀rọ̀ Ọlọ́run ṣe sọ. Àwọn ni Northern Kingdom Israeli. Àwọn ni Northern Kingdom Israeli. Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ sí Northern Kingdom Israel? Nígbà tí àwọn Assyrian Empire tán kó wọn lẹ́rú, lẹ́yìn ìgbà tí wọ́n free wọn, ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn migrate lọ sí South America. Àwọn náà lọ create a new country. Àwọn ni àwọn òyìnbó amúnisìn, àwọn ni wọ́n lọ invade tí wọ́n pa nípakúpa. Àwọn ni àwọn òyìnbó amúnisìn, àwọn ni wọ́n lọ invade tí wọ́n pa nípakúpa. Àwọn ìran Israeli náà ni wọ́n. Àwọn half part of Israel, ó ní àwọn South America, ó ní àwọn Native America, àwọn Canadians àti Australia. Àwọn half kingdom of Northern Kingdom ni wọ́n. Ṣùgbọ́n ò kí n padà sórí máàpù yìí. Tá a bá wo ibi tí wọ́n kọ slave coast sí, ibẹ̀ ni mo point sí. Wọ́n kọ slave coast. Ibẹ̀ ni wọ́n ti kó most of the slaves. Níbo ni slave coast sí? Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ẹ wò dáadáa o. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Tá bá wo on the right side, ilẹ̀ Benin, on the left side, ẹ máa rí Gold Coast, àti lọ sí Ghana. Gbogbo area yìí Ghana ni, gbogbo Ghana, Togo, Ghana, gbogbo area yìí. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ wo bí tí wọ́n kọ slave coast sí. Wọ́n kọ Lagos. Ẹ wo bíbá yìí, wọ́n kọ R Lagos. Ṣé rí Lagos? Ibi tí mo point sí Lagos. Ẹ wo Lagos. Kí ni wọ́n kọ síbi Lagos? Wida or Fida. Wọ́n pè Wida or Fida. Kí ni meaning Wida? Ní French, ó ní wọ́n pè ní Judah. And ní French, Wida. Ní English, Judah. Ní Portuguese, Fida or Ajuda, èdè àwọn European. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ wo R Lagos. Gbogbo bíbáyìí wá sí gbogbo bíbáyìí ní area Yorùbá. Kí wọ́n kọ síbẹ̀, wọ́n lọ pé slave coast. Most of the slaves tí wọ́n kó l'Áfríkà, ọ̀dọ̀ wa ni wọ́n ti kó most of the slaves. Even ní Dahomey, àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá la ní Dahomey. Àwọn kan wá later, wọ́n wá invade Dahomey. Ìgbà yẹn la mix, ìgbà yẹn ni ilẹ̀ Benin Republic ó di ilẹ̀ Dahomey àti ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Àwọn kan wá later, ṣùgbọ́n originally Yorùbá gangan ló wà nílẹ̀ Dahomey tẹ́lẹ̀. Tẹ́ bá lọ ka history, ó wà nú history. Ó wà nú history. Yorùbá gangan ló wà nílẹ̀ Dahomey tẹ́lẹ̀. Káwọn invaders kankan tó wá. Nígbà táwọn invaders wá, ibẹ̀ ni Yorùbá àti àwọn invaders yẹn láti parapọ̀. Tó fi jẹ́ pé wọ́n sọ Yorùbá ní ilẹ̀ Dahomey. Àwọn míì náà tún sọ èdè míì nílẹ̀ Dahomey. But originally, ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni. So, gbogbo bíbáyìí ibi r Lagos yìí tán kọ r Lagos yìí slave coast títí dé gbogbo bíbáyìí ilẹ̀ Dahomey ẹ máa rí pé Yorùbá ló ní gbogbo ẹ̀ pátápátá ibẹ̀ ni wọ́n pè ní slave coast ibẹ̀ wọ́n ti kó most of the Yorùbá kí ni wọ́n kọ síbẹ̀ wọ́n pé yehudah ó ní wọ́n pè ní Judah ní English ó ní wọ́n pè ní fida ní Portuguese ní Portuguese so kí ni àwọn òyìnbó yìí ṣe kí ni àwọn amúnisìn ṣe ṣẹ́rí gbogbo ìgbà tó ń kó wa lẹ́rú ó ní wọ́n ti change orúkọ wa fún àwọn òyìnbó kan àwọn tó wà lórílẹ̀‐èdè Israel nísìn wọ́n ti ń gbìmọ̀ bí wọ́n ṣe máa change bí wọ́n ṣe máa lọ plant wọn sórílẹ̀‐èdè Israeli tó máa pè wọ́n ní Israel originally wọ́n ń ṣe ìran Israeli àwa ọmọ Yorùbá àti ẹ̀yà mọ́kànlá yòókù ó ní ìran Israeli àwa ní ìran Judah wídà èmi ní Judah òun náà ni wọ́n translate òun náà ni wọ́n pè ní Yorùbá so ẹ wo gbogbo region yìí ká lè rí àrídájú pé àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá àwa ní ẹ̀yà Judah ẹ̀yà Yorùbá ẹ̀yà yehudah àti Yorùbá is the same something so ó ṣe pàtàkì fún àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá ká mọ ọmọ ẹni tí a ń jẹ́ torí pé a gbọ́dọ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní kéyìn rere ẹni tí a jẹ́ nítorí pé àwọn amúnisìn wọ́n dìídì gbé orúkọ wa pamọ́ torí pé wọn ò fẹ́ ká mọ ọmọ ẹni tí a jẹ́ tẹ́ bá lọ sí Psalm 83 kí ló sọ ó lọ pé wọ́n ti parapọ̀ láti ṣe kí ni láti jẹ́ ká gbàgbé ẹni tí a jẹ́ orúkọ tí a jẹ́ màá kà ní Psalm 83 fún wa létà wọ́n parapọ̀ ṣùgbọ́n nígbà ìkẹyìn Jésù sọ pé you will know the truth and the truth shall set you free iṣẹ́ tí Ọlọ́run fún wa láti jí àwọn èèyàn wa a gbọ́dọ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní kéyìn rere orúkọ tá a ń jẹ́ láti ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀ orúkọ yẹn gangan ó ní iṣẹ́ tó fẹ́ ṣe nítorí pé àwa ni ìran ládéládé ẹ̀rí wọ́n kọ slave coast kí ló dé tó jẹ́ pé àwọn amúnisìn wọ́n focus lórí wa nítorí pé wọ́n mọ ọmọ ẹni tí a jẹ́ ìran ládéládé wọ́n mọ ọmọ ẹni tí a jẹ́ eléyìí ṣe pàtàkì fún wa ẹ jẹ́ kí àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá ká dìde ká claim orúkọ wa padà àwa ni ìran Judah ìran Yorùbá ìran yehudah Yorùbá kì í on a normal day Samuel Ajayi Crowther ló bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní lo Yorùbá fún Yorùbá ṣùgbọ́n ancient Yorùbá tó ń sọ yehudah òní àwọn French pè ń wídà ṣùgbọ́n ní ancient Hebrew yehudah ni yehudah Yorùbá the same thing méjèèjì so ó ṣe pàtàkì àwa ni ọmọ ládéládé kí iṣẹ́ tí Ọlọ́run fún wa kó lè búyọ a gbọ́dọ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní kéyìn rere ẹni tí a jẹ́ ẹ má jẹ́ ká tijú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wa lóyìn ara iṣẹ́ tí Ọlọ́run fún wa ṣe nìyí Jésù sọ pé tó bá tijú mi èmi náà tijú Jésù sọ pé tó bá confess me before men ó sọ pé I will not confess you before my Father in heaven ìjọba tó wà nílẹ̀ yìí ìjọba Jésù Kristi ìjọba ayérayé ni àwa ni ẹ̀yà Judah nínú wa ni Jésù Kristi ó ti jáde ẹ jọ̀wọ́ ẹ jẹ́ ká dìde ká bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní kéyìn rere ọmọ ẹni tí a jẹ́ nínú ẹ̀ iṣẹ́ ìyanu ó máa ṣe. Tá bá wo Psalm 83 verse 1 kí ló sọ títí dé verse 8 ó sọ gbogbo àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè tó parapọ̀ tí wọ́n jọ ṣiṣẹ́ burúkú yẹn tí wọ́n sọ pé ẹ jẹ́ ká gbé orúkọ wọn ká gbé kúrò lórí wọn so that wọn ní mọ ọmọ ẹni tí wọ́n jẹ́ mọ́ Maka Psalm 83, that's verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult. Àwọn wo ni enemy Ọlọ́run? Ẹni tó bá ti jẹ́ enemy Ọlọ́run, òun náà ni enemy àwọn ọmọ àyànfẹ́, àwọn ọmọ Ọlọ́run. Àwọn ọmọ Ọlọ́run tí wọ́n ń pè ní saints, the saints of God or the host of God. Tí àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá a jẹ́ ọ̀kan lára ẹ̀yà méjìlá Ísírẹ́lì, ẹ̀yà Judah. Progenitor wa ni Jacob, ẹni tí Ọlọ́run yàn láti gbé ìjọba ayé fún. Progenitor wa òun ni Jacob, òun ló bí àwọn ẹ̀yà méjìlá tó jẹ́ pé àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá a jẹ́ ẹ̀yà Judah, ẹ̀yà ládéládé. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Ṣẹ́ńgbọ́, ẹni tó hate Ọlọ́run, òun náà ló hate àwọn ọmọ ẹ̀. Ìwọ́n pé they have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Àwọn ọmọ ẹ̀, àwọn èèyàn, gbogbo àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè wọ́n ti parapọ̀. Kí ni wọ́n ṣe? And consulted against thy hidden ones. And consulted against thy hidden ones. Ó mì pé wọ́n ti jókòó, wọ́n ti gbìmọ̀ pọ̀. Láti lo ọgbọ́n burúkú, ọgbọ́n àrékérekè, ọgbọ́n àlùmọ̀kọ́yé. Kí ni wọ́n ṣe? They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. Nínú ìgbìmọ̀ wọn tí wọ́n ṣe, wọ́n pé ẹ jẹ́ ká jẹ́ kí wọ́n gbàgbé pé àwọn ni ọmọ àyànfẹ́, àwọn ni ọmọ Ísírẹ́lì. Màá kà á tán kó lè yé wa. For they have consulted together with one màá kà á láti verse 4. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel, àwa gangan la ń jẹ́ Israeli, may be no more in remembrance. Wọ́n gbé orúkọ Ísírẹ́lì, wọ́n gbé kúrò lórí wa, wọ́n wá gbé sórí ara wọn. Orí ta ni wọ́n gbé sí? Orí àwọn tí wọ́n plant sí orílẹ̀-èdè Israel lọ́jọ́ tòní, tí wọ́n ń jagun lọ́jọ́ tòní. Tẹ́ bá ti rí gbogbo nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ nílẹ̀ Israel, ẹ ti mọ̀ pé àwọn tó wà ń bẹ̀ wọ́n ń ṣe ọmọ Ọlọ́run, wọ́n ń ṣe ọmọ àyànfẹ́. Fraction àwọn òyìnbó kan, ó ní àwọn tó wà lórílẹ̀-èdè Israeli. Àwọn British, àwọn ló organize wọn. Àwọn British, àwọn Europeans ló organize wọn pé kán lọ plant wọn síbẹ̀ so that wọ́n máa rò báwọn ni ọmọ Israeli gangan. Ṣùgbọ́n kí ni wọ́n ṣe? Ìwọ́n pé they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Kí ni verse 2 sọ? For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Ọgbọ́n àlùmọ̀kọ́yí, ọgbọ́n burúkú, wọ́n parapọ̀ and consulted against thy hidden ones. Kí ló dé tán ṣe ń pè wá ní hidden ones? Lẹ́yìn ìgbà tí wọ́n gbé orúkọ wa kúrò, tó yẹ pé wọ́n mú orúkọ Israel yẹn wọ́n gbé kúrò lórí wa, àwa di hidden ones. A di ẹni tó yẹ pé ayé ò mọ̀ páwa ni ọmọ àyànfẹ́ mọ́. Verse 5 kí ló sọ? For they have consulted together again with one consent. Pẹ̀lú ìmọ̀ kan, they are confederate against thee. Wọ́n parapọ̀ against àwọn ọmọ Ọlọ́run, against Ọlọ́run, against àwọn ọmọ Ọlọ́run. Kí ni ìwé mọ́ wá sọ orúkọ wọn? Ó name gbogbo àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè tó ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn. Ẹ gbọ́ gbogbo àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè tó ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn o. Gbogbo wọn ni màá translate orúkọ wọn. Màá sọ àwọn tó jẹ́. wọ́n pè the tabernacles of Edom. Ta ni Edom? Àwọn òyìnbó ní Edom, gbogbo ìran òyìnbó, àwọn Caucasian race, àwọn ní Edomite. Tẹ́ bá lọ sí book of Genesis chapter 36, ó wà ń bẹ̀. Esau is Edom. Bí Jacob bó ṣe jẹ́ progenitor àwa ẹ̀yà méjìlá, bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni Esau ó ṣe jẹ́ Esau gbogbo ìran òyìnbó. The tabernacles of Edom. Ìwé mi sọ pé Catholicism ni wọ́n sọ bí báyìí. Ìwé mi sọ pé tabernacle. The tabernacles ó mì pé Roman Catholic kì í ṣe Christianity. Ìwé mi sọ pé the tabernacles of Edom. Christianity is a genuine religion tó yẹ pé Jésù Kristi tí ń ṣe ọmọ Yorùbá. Jésù Kristi tí ń ṣe ọmọ Yorùbá, èèyàn dúdú ni, kì í ṣe èèyàn funfun. Ṣùgbọ́n ọgbọ́n wo ni wọ́n dá? Ọgbọ́n tí wọ́n dá ni pé wọ́n gbé orúkọ Ísírẹ́lì kúrò lórí wa, wọ́n gbé sí orí ara wọn. Automatically kí ló máa ṣẹlẹ̀? Everybody máa wà confused nípa ẹni tó jẹ́ Christian. Àwa ọmọ Yorùbá gangan ni Christian. Kí àwọn Europeans kan tó gbé Roman Catholicism wá, káwọn Arab kan tó gbé Muslim wá, ìran àwa ni wọ́n pè ní ọmọlẹ́yìn Jésù, ọmọlẹ́yìn olùgbàlà. Àwa gangan ni the original Christian. Meaning Christ ni olùgbàlà. So kí ni wọ́n wá ń pè wá? Ọmọlẹ́yìn olùgbàlà, nítorí pé àwa ni Jésù Kristi wá láti gbàlà ní oko ẹrú ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ àti oko ẹrú àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè àjòjì. Ìwé wọn wá continue, wọ́n pè the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelite tabernacle Muslim. Ìwé wọn point sí ọ pé the tabernacles plural wọn ló ń bẹ̀ yẹn, the tabernacles of Edom. Ó tún wá continue and the Ishmaelites, àwọn Arab náà wọ́n gbé Muslim wá. Of Moab, àwọn Chinese náà wà ń bẹ̀. And the Agarins, àwọn ni Agarins, àwọn ni Nilotic people tó wà North Africa, àwọn náà parapọ̀ mọ́ wọn. Nítorí ẹ̀ lọ́jọ́ tòní ẹ máa rí àwọn Arab kan tó yẹ kí wọ́n dúdú kírákírá. Àwọn kí ni mí ni Aga? Aga ni ẹrú tí màmá wa Sarah tó fún bàbá wa Abraham ipe kó bá lò pọ̀ kó lè bímọ, nítorí pé gbà yẹn ìyá wa Sarah ò tí ì bímọ. Reason tí wọ́n fi ń pè ní Agarins nìyẹn. Wọ́n máa ń dúdú kírákírá ni. Àwọn ìran Upper Egypt, àwọn ìran Nilotic ni wọ́n. Àwọn ló wà ní northern part of Nigeria lọ́jọ́ tòní tó máa ń dúdú kírákírá yẹn. Wọ́n ti mix mọ́ àwọn northern part of Nigeria. Àwọn ẹ̀bẹ̀tẹ̀ máa rí wọn máa dúdú kírákírá báyìí. Àwọn ìran Agarins nìyẹn. Àwọn náà wọ́n wà lára àwọn tí àwọn òyìnbó lò láti kó wa lẹ́rú. Wọ́n mix mọ́ àwọn Fúlàní. Wọ́n wà lára àwọn tí àwọn òyìnbó tí wọ́n lò tí wọ́n fi kó wa lẹ́rú. Ìdílé tó yẹ pé ìwé wọn fi ń list gbogbo wọn. The Agarins, ìran Aga mini ẹ̀ nìyẹn. Aga ló bí Ishmael. Ẹ wo relationship nù ibi tí mo ń kà yìí o. Aga òun ló bí Ishmael. Agarins ní singular Aga ni. Àwọn ni Agarins, àwọn ni black Nilotic tó máa ń dúdú kíákíá yẹn. Kí ni wọ́n wá ṣe nínú ìwé? Ẹ máa rí pé àwọn àti Ishmaelite wọ́n mix. Aga gangan ló bí Ishmael, but wọ́n ń sọ nípa àwọn ìran Aga gangan fún rẹ̀. àwọn ní Nilotic black people. So ó ń sọ fún wa pé nítorí pé Abraham ló bí Ishmael, Abraham ló bí Ishmael. Abraham yàtọ̀ sí Ágà díẹ̀, Abraham yàtọ̀ sí Ágà díẹ̀, ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n wá ń sọ pé àti ọmọ tí Ágà bí tí ń ṣe Ishmael àti àwọn èèyàn Ágà fún rẹ̀, àwọn Nilotic black people, gbogbo wọn ló parapọ̀ ní ìsìn tán tẹ́ pé wọ́n kó wa lẹ́rú. Gbogbo wọn ló parapọ̀ tí wọ́n gbọ́ ẹ jẹ́ ká gbé orúkọ tó ń jẹ́ orúkọ Israel yẹn, ẹ jẹ́ ká gbé kúrò lórí wọn. Wọ́n pé Angebar and Ammon, àwọn ni Ammon, àwọn Japanese, and Amalek, àwọn ni Amalek, àwọn Amalekite gangan ló wà lórílẹ̀‐èdè Israel, àwọn gangan wọn lọ plant sórílẹ̀‐èdè Israel gangan lọ́jọ́ tìní. One fraction of àwọn òyìnbó nìyẹn, Amalek, one fraction. Tẹ́ bá lọ sínú book of Genesis ó wà ń bẹ̀ náà, ìran Amalekite. Esau ọmọ Alifas òun ló bí Amalek, alẹ́ ló bí Amalek, alẹ́ Elifas, firstborn Esau, firstborn Esau ló bí Amalek. And the Philistines, àwọn ni Philistines, àwọn ni àwọn tó jẹ́ pé à ń pè ní Israel lọ́jọ́ tòní tó ń bọ́ǹbù ilẹ̀ wọn. Kí ló dé tán yẹn ń bọ́ǹbù ilẹ̀ wọn? Ọlọ́run ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí kọjú idà wọn síra tìtorí ìgbìmọ̀ burúkú wọn lórí wa. Tìtorí pé àwọn Philistines náà wọ́n wà lára àwọn tó kó wa lẹ́rú. So Ọlọ́run ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí kọjú idà wọn síra. Àwọn gbogbo nǹkan tí wọ́n ṣe, gbogbo ogun tí wọ́n ń jà yẹn ó máa escalate, ó máa di third world war tó yẹ pé Ọlọ́run máa fi kọ̀yìn wọn síra, tó yẹ pé Ọlọ́run máa fi rẹ́yìn gbogbo wọn fún gbogbo ìwà burúkú tí wọ́n wù sí wa. Ọgbẹ́ with the inhabitants of Tyre, àwọn oní Tyre náà, àwọn náà ní Nilotic black people, àwọn náà Upper Africa wọ́n wà, Sudan, Somali, Nilotic gbogbo wọn. Ashur also is joined with them, àwọn Assyrians, area Syria, àti Syria gbogbo wọn wọ́n jọ parapọ̀ láti gbìmọ̀ burúkú lórí wa nìyẹn, láti gbìmọ̀ burúkú lórí wa. Ó ṣe pàtàkì fún wa láti mọ eléyìí. Gbogbo bí wọ́n ṣe gbé orúkọ wa kúò, orúkọ Israel yẹn tó gbé sórí àwọn Amalekite, màá play next video. Ní 14 something kan tó wá kó wa lẹ́rú, àwọn èèyàn wa orúkọ tí wọ́n ń pè wọ́n ní Europe is Jew. Àwọn èèyàn wa orúkọ tí wọ́n ń pè wọ́n ní Europe torí pé gbogbo ìgbà yẹn a ti wà ní Europe, a wà ní Portugal, a wà ní Britain, a wà ní Spain, a wà ní France. Gbogbo ìgbà yẹn a rúlu Europe ńgbà kan, gbogbo ìgbà yẹn a rúlu Europe. Later ni àwọn òyìnbó wọ́n wá láti eastern part of the world, area Asia. Wọ́n wá invade wa. Ibẹ̀ yẹn náà làwọn náà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀, ibẹ̀ yẹn wọ́n ti gba ìjọba Europe mọ́ wa lọ́wọ́. Wọ́n wá láti eastern part of area Asia, Asia Minor. Asia Minor ní Turkey, Albanian, Syria, Cyprus, gbogbo area yẹn gbogbo wọn migrate wá, wọ́n gbógun ti àwọn èèyàn wa ní Europe débi pé wọ́n gba ìjọba lọ́wọ́ wa. A máa rí nu the next video tí máa play orúkọ tí wọ́n ń pè wá gangan ní 14 something black Jews wọ́n máa ń pè wá, àwa tá wà ní Europe, black Jews. Ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo ìgbà ìgbà tán fẹ́ wá kó wa lẹ́rú, wọ́n ti ń ṣe kí ni, wọ́n ti organize ara wọn, wọ́n ṣe máa gbé orúkọ Israel yẹn kù, wọ́n máa gbé kù lórí wa. Wọ́n sọ pé wọ́n parapọ̀ pẹ̀lú ọgbọ́n àlùmọ̀kọ́yí láti ṣe kí ni, láti cut off, tó yẹ pé láti cut orúkọ yẹn off débi pé àní mọ ọmọ ẹni tí a jẹ́ mọ́. Mo fẹ́ ká farabalẹ̀ wo fídíò tí máa play èyí tó máa tẹ̀lé.
And early in the early modern world, all right? Sorry about that. Jonathan Scorch is the author, all right? Jews and Blacks in the Early Modern World, Jonathan Scorch. I'm going to read here. It says, there are some medieval Jewish expressions to the effect that Jews were seen in Europe as black and ugly. Keep it in mind that blackness or whiteness is always a relative matter. Indeed, the metaphysical reading one text gave to this color scheme reflects a polemical usage. Such usages, such physical theories acquired, perhaps always had, the 13th century text of polemics by R. Joseph and Nathan Official and the Sefer Yashan, a guide for Jews disputing Christians, probably written in early 14th century German lands, contain nearly identical answers to charges of Jewish ugliness and blackness. All right? The heretics example Christians acts and say, why are majority of Gentiles, example Christians, white and attractive while the majority of Jews are black and ugly? All right, you hear that? Reply to them that it is comparable to fruit. When it begins to blossom, it is white. After it is finished, then it turns black, as with sloes and plums, and every fruit that is red to begin with. When it is done, is white, as with apples and pears or apricots. And this is testimony for Israel that they are pure of menstrual blood. And there is here. All right, so that's their little explanation. So again, we're just reading references from these times, what they're saying. Continue here, it says, early modern non-Jews in Western Europe also appeared to be confused or ambivalent about the color status of Jews. The English Sir William Barrington visited one of the Sephardic synagogues in Amsterdam in 1635 and wrote that the Jewish men were most black and insatiably given unto women. Insatiably. I have trouble with that word. In 1643, Isaac de la Peyrère, sounds like Pereira, contended that once the Jews convert to Christianity, they will no longer have this dark complexion. So this is deep, almost like how you say that? Like a metaphor, right? And so is this what we see when we're looking at census? When they're talking about dark and black, are they just talking about maybe because they're not Christians or seen civilized in the eyes of the census taker? But it's deep. Either way, we know so-called Jews of Spain and Portugal were very dark. We got the actual numerous references on other sources already in past videos. We know what the Moors look like, of course, right? I mean, or are we saying there that the Moors are white now, right? Or they're still so-called black, right? Moors are still so-called black, right? Okay. So a lot of these so-called Sephardic Jews are Moors. All right, so it's interesting. Now they say, so if you convert to Christianity, you will no longer have this dark complexion. They will change faces, and the whiteness of their complexion will have the same brightness as an Englishman. John Greenhalgh visited the Jews' synagogue in London and wrote a friend about it in 1662, describing the chief ruler, probably the president of the Parnassum, as a very rich merchant. All right, who's the merchant? A big, black, fierce, and stern man. He was a big, black, fierce, and stern man. At the letter's end, Greenhalgh reiterated with ethnographic precision that the 100 or so Jews he saw at the synagogue are all generally black, so as they may be distinguished from Spaniards or native Greeks. All right, 100 or so, all of them in the synagogue. All right, this is in London, all right, England, the Jews, all right, black, so-called black. For the Jews' hair has a deeper tincture of more perfect raven black, all right, a little bit different than the Spaniards and Greeks, all right, which are also so-called black. The only distinguishes the hair, a little bit of the hair texture. In 1690, the Reverend Robert Kirk of Aberfoyle visited the same church Jewish alley synagogue, ending his depiction of the worship with almost identical ethnographic punctuation. He said, and this is quotes, they were all very black men and indistinct in their reasoning as gypsies. All right, just like the gypsies. We got that newspaper from the 1800s in Louisiana in my Acadian video that we did recently, telling us that the gypsies were so dark. They were like a whole different Negro race, apart from the other Negroes that were there. All right, the gypsies. All right, we're talking about OG gypsies, the OG gypsies. All right, Egyptians, Egyptians, the Romani, the people from the promise, people of the promise, Ramon, pomegranate. Look into that. 42. Shout out to Drop Nation. Similar portrayals continued into the 18th century and later. William Black, Secretary of Commissioners, appointed by Governor William Gooch of Virginia to deal with the Indians, described Hester Levy, a daughter of the wealthiest and best-known New York Jew, Moses Levy, whom he met in June 1744, as a very well-made, her complexion black, but very calmly. She had two charming eyes and well-turned, with a beautiful head of hair, coal black. All right. As late as 1753, during the debate in England over that year's Jewish Naturalization Act, one polemicist suggested that anyone who wanted to look Jewish, all right, should rub herself with walnut husk to fix such an indelible hue and make you complete olive beauties with a lively complexion like that of the new Negro from the coast of Guinea. All right. Boom. You want to look Jewish, you got to grab some walnut, man. Paint yourself like a walnut, man. You might get that olive hue like the new Negroes of the coast of Guinea. All right. Shout out to the person who sent me this reference. I believe it was on Instagram. I forget the name, but he knows who he is. Shout out to you, brother. Thank you for sharing this with all of us. And I found the book, I just took out this part right here real quick. Yeah. Lady Maria Nugent, visiting an 1803 theater performance in Jamaica's Spanish Town, explicitly separated Jews and whites in her depiction of the audience. Members who were all of colors and descriptions, blacks, browns, Jews, and whites. So she said, Jews over here, whites over there. Yeah, in Jamaica. There's also a vulgar error that the Jews are all black, for this is only true of the Portuguese ones, who marrying always among one another beget children like themselves, and consequently the swartiness, all right, the swartiness of their complexion is entailed upon their whole race, all right, swarty, even in the northern regions, even in the cold places, all right, swarty. But the Jews who are originally of Germany, those, for example, I have seen at Prague, are not blacker than the rest of their countrymen. All right, they're not as black. They didn't say they were white. They said they weren't as black. All right. Towards the latter end of the 18th century, one finds the same change ability of the Jews expressed in updated nuances and geographic context. The Reverend Samuel Stanhope Smith wrote that the Jews are fair in Britain and Germany, brown in France. They're brown in France. Fair? That could be light skin, right? Brown in France. And in Turkey, they're swarty. In Portugal and Spain, they're swarty. All right, so brown in France and Turkey, right? And then they're swarty in Portugal and Spain. That's what we're talking about today, right? The Jews and the Moors of Portugal and Spain. We know Moors are swarty, right? So Jews are swarty too, same. People of color that just went through that, getting ripped apart, being packed in ships, right? They say they're olive in Syria and in Chaldea. They're tawny or copper colored in Arabia and Egypt. All right. Perhaps the best indication that the balances involved in such distinctions also conveyed metaphysical import is the title of mid-17th century English translation of a stationary tract aimed at Jews by the formerly Jewish Samuel of Morocco, the Blessed Jew of Morocco, or a blackamoor made white, being a demonstration of the true messiahs out of the law and prophets of Rabbi Samuel. A blackamoor made white. All right, that happens so much in history. Yeah. Christians thought, especially among
but he found out some history. He said he got to write it down before they kill him. Let's go to page 3. Tip.
Today, a large number of black Americans think of the Jews as people of the book.
You think of the Jews as people of the Bible, right?
And they look more favorably on them than on other Caucasians.
Like
they're different.
Yeah, like they're different. Like, what's the fat guy? He's a preacher. John Hagee. He think that those people in Israel are just so special. And you got black people following that. Go ahead.
These poorly informed blacks.
These poorly informed. Now, I didn't write the book. These poorly informed blacks, go ahead,
do not know that the Jews of Europe played the same role in their enslavement, oppression, and colonization as other Europeans.
So the white man says there's no difference between them. No difference. Give me the next page. The introduction. No. Yes, that's what I want.
For among other things, I will attempt to show that racism itself is a predisposition of but one race of mankind, the white race.
Do y'all see this? What is white folks wrote this? He said racism is a predisposition that comes from one race. The so-called white race. They're the ones that push that. Now, let's go to the next page. Read that.
Nuclear war, environmental pollution, resource rape, all are primary threats to our survival, and all are the result of peculiarly Caucasoid behavior, Caucasoid values, and Caucasoid psychology. There is no way to avoid the truth. The problem with the world is white men.
Yeah, the white man wrote this. Who mad at me? I didn't say it. The white man said it.
Now the problem with the world.
There's some heavy stuff right there. White folks wrote this. But nobody wants to admit that truth.
Yeah.
And when we read it from the Bible, they want to stone us. Give me the next page. Read that.
Most of them are descendants of Russian steppe tribesmen who were converted to Judaism in mass around 740 AD.
Talking about white folks in Russia. They converted to Judaism. Go ahead.
Being of highly aggressive Caucasoid genetic stock.
Use that word Caucasoid from the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia. Go ahead.
Modern Jews could be expected to be highly aggressive in consequence.
Do you see the aggression of them in the land of Israel? Yes. You see the highly aggressive nature they have. Yeah. Go ahead.
Now, the Khazar conversion origin of most of modern Jewry is a fact discovered by Jewish scholars.
That's why when we say that they know that they're the Khazars, they know that they're the Edomites, we're telling y'all the truth. They know it. It's in their books. Go ahead.
And a fact accepted by almost all Jewish scholars.
All Jewish scholars admit they come from the Khazars. They converted to Judaism. Give me the next page.
The point of all this is that we now come to an issue not presented in any popular history of the Jewish people.
There's no popular history of the Jewish people, go ahead.
Or any of the numerous books on quote-unquote anti-Semitism.
Go ahead.
Not a whisper.
Not a whisper.
Or reference
to it
has entered our public school system.
The schools won't even talk about it. Go ahead.
And it is simply that Jews were major participants in the genocide of American Indians as conquistadors. And were major participants in the greatest human tragedy history knows. No, not Hitler's Holocaust.
He said, I ain't talking about World War II.
Where your mind went.
Right.
The transatlantic trade in Africans as slaves.
So this white man admitted that is the worst tragedy in history.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Now, this must have been the case because it was the conquistadors who first murdered and then enslaved the American Indians during the first century of colonialism. Before this first century of exploitation was half over, the supply of Amerindians had already gotten scarce in some places. Then, the idea of importing black Africans in large quantities to replace them was conceived. Indeed, the slave trade became the largest single European maritime activity. Since, on much evidence, Jews were well represented among the conquistadors.
Y'all see that? He repeated it. Jews were well represented among the conquistadors. They spoke Spanish. Go ahead.
If not an actual majority of the first waves of them.
He said the first wave of them was Amalek, these so-called Jews. Go ahead.
And since Jews virtually control the administrative and financial aspects of European maritime commerce, the conclusion is inescapable that Jews must have had a large and profitable role in New World genocide and slavery.
Boom. Y'all see that? Go ahead.
There is no way to estimate the number of victims. Reasonable estimates suggest that from 10 to 15 million Amerindians and Africans
There's books that say it was way more than that. Go ahead.
perished in slavery. But some estimates range as high as 100 million victims.
And way more than that. Give me the next page. Page 230.
But when we now consider that 95% of the Jews in the modern world are Ashkenazism,
What?
their claim to a Jewish homeland in Palestine becomes absurd.
It's absurd. That's not their homeland.
Grotesque.
Grotesque even.
Grotesque.
Go ahead.
They are descended from Caucasus converts to Judaism. Nothing more. And have no genetic or historical connection with Palestine at all.
Wow. Go ahead.
The case of Zionism is no different from, say, a group of Cree Indians from northern Canada becoming converted to Catholicism and then demanding a piece of the Vatican as a Cree homeland.
Right. You see the irony in that? The hell, go ahead.
Israel was conceived by Ashkenazi Jews to buttress their delusions, to feed their insatiable desire for identity in time. Israel was established by deceiving the rest of the world, but particularly the North American publics, about the real origins of the Ashkenazism.
This is some heavy information here. Let me get in the next page, page 232.
Lord have mercy.
The world is
Remember this, in Revelation 12:9, it says the devil deceiveth the whole world. That's what this author is bringing out. Go ahead.
The world is presently facing many crises, not just the Arab-Israeli one. And if we look at these crises with total objectivity, we will see that all of them at base derive from Caucasoid behavior.
So he said all the crises on the planet stem from Caucasians.
Caucasoid.
Even you look through the problems in Africa, who's behind the coups and all that? Caucasians. They're behind all of that. Go ahead.
Caucasoid values and Caucasoid psychology, nuclear war, environmental pollution, resource wastage, all have reached a critical mass and have become threats to our survival because of Caucasoid evolution.
Y'all see that? Now, thank you, Yuri, thank you. Let's go back to Psalms 109. And I believe you're in verse 16, Yuri.
Yes, sir. Psalms chapter 109, verse 16.
They showed us no mercy. Give me the next page, next picture. Okay. Can we zoom in? Like the top four? Yeah, and you can scroll across. This is what they did to us. Those are babies. Okay. Look, y'all see they cut the people open? That's how they got the babies out. Give me the next one. They did that to the men too. Took our entrails out. Fed us to the dogs. Now these are drawings that they did back in 1492, in between 1492 and the 1500s. Cut their hands off if they didn't bring back enough gold. Did they do the same thing in the Congo? It's the same thing. Hey, look at that one. Raise that up. I want y'all to see that. See how they got the kid with the spike going through its rectum, through its head. And look at the mother. Look at the mother to the right. Same way. Impaled her through the rectum, through her back. That's the family. That's the father on the left, mother on the right, and the baby in the middle. They didn't care. This one they had a pit where they threw us into a pit that had spikes in it. See how the spikes are impaling the bodies? They showed no mercy. All right, give me the next page, because see, I'm looking at the time. Give me the next page. Give me the next page. Give me the next page. Y'all can zoom in. When y'all get home, y'all can slow it down and zoom in. Read that.
And thus pregnant and nursing women and children and old persons and any others that they might take, they would throw them into the holes until the pits were filled. The Indians being pierced through by the stakes, which was a sore thing to see, especially the women with their children.
Give me the next page. Read that.
Another time, because the Indians did not give him a coffer filled with gold, they killed an infinite number of souls and cut off their hands and noses.
Look, zoom. Can you zoom in on the noses? Look at that. The nose is off. Go over to the woman on the side, right there. That's what they did. And go over further. There's a man running on the left. Yep, right there. His nose is cut off. His hands are cut off.
Gẹ́gẹ́ bí a ṣe rí nínú àwọn ìwé tí a play fún wa àti gẹ́gẹ́ bí gbogbo ohun tí wọ́n sọ, gbogbo iṣẹ́ burúkú tí àwọn amúnisìn tí wọ́n ṣe fún wa nìyí, tí wọ́n gbé pamọ́. Tẹ́ bá rí, kí ni wọ́n kọ? Wọ́n kó over 100 million èèyàn wa. Ó ní ó lọ sí lóko ẹrú. Over 100 million àwọn èèyàn wa. Àwọn tí Atlantic slave trade nìyẹn o. A sọ tàwọn Muslim o, ti Trans-Saharan slave trade. A sọ ti àwọn native of America, native of South America. Èèyàn kan ní gbogbo wa o. Àwọn native America àti gbogbo àwọn South Americans, bàbá kan náà ló bí wa, Jacob, òun ni progenitor wa. Ẹ máa ṣàkíyèsí pé ohun tó ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn South Africans bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti àwọn native America, òun náà ló ṣẹlẹ̀ sáwa náà ní Africa. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọ̀rọ̀ Ọlọ́run ṣe sọ nìyẹn. Ọ̀rọ̀ Ọlọ́run ti sọ láti bẹ̀rẹ̀. Gbogbo nǹkan tó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ sí wa, wọ́n yẹ máa kó wa lẹ́rú. Ohun tó bá ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn tó wà ní Africa náà ló máa ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn tó wà ní South America. Àwọn èèyàn wa náà ló wà ní South America. Àwọn èèyàn wa náà ló wà ní àwọn èèyàn wa náà ní Native America. Ìyàtọ̀ tó wà láàrin wa ni pé àwọn ti mix pẹ̀lú àwọn other race. Àwọn Northern Kingdom 10 tribes ni wọ́n pọ̀ gan. Àwọn ló pọ̀ jù, àwọn Northern Kingdom. Àwọn mix mọ́ so many races. Tẹ́ bá wo South America, ẹ̀yin ẹ wojú wọn. Wọ́n ń ṣe Asians, but ẹ máa rí ojú Asians nínú wọn. Àwọn ní Assyrian Empire, àwọn Asians, àwọn ni wọ́n kó lẹ́rú. Ìdí rẹ̀ pé máa rí àwọn Mexicans, Brazilians, àwọn Peru, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, gbogbo wọn ní ojú àwọn Asians. Àwọn ti mix mọ́ àwọn Asians. Àwọn ní Northern Kingdom, àwọn ní Assyrian Empire, àwọn ni wọ́n kó lẹ́rú ní 722. Wà ní book of Jeremiah chapter 17. Book of Jeremiah chapter 17. Tabaka Book of Jeremiah chapter 17 kaka verse 7 lọ́sàlẹ̀. Àwọn ni Assyrian Empire kó lẹ́rú. Wọ́n kó wọn lọ sí Asia. Nígbà tí wọ́n free wọn, wọ́n wá migrate ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn. Half wọn migrate wá sí Africa. Níbo ni wọ́n migrate? Àwọn wo ní Northern Kingdom l'Africa? Ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti eastern part of Nigeria. Àwọn Igbo, Calabar, Cross River, wá sí Cameroon, wá sí South Africa, wá sí Tanzania, Kenya. Ìran kan Northern Kingdom gbogbo wọn yẹn. Northern Kingdom gbogbo wọn yẹn. Tẹ́ bá rí alphabet àwọn Igbo, ẹ bá rí pé the same alphabet. Bí àwọn Cameroon, South Africa, àwọn Kenyans, Namibia, ẹ máa rí pé pronunciation wọn máa ń jọra. Àwọn ló máa ń lo CHI. Àwọn Assyrian Empire ló máa ń lo tẹ́ bá wo àwọn Chinese lọ́jọ́ tòní ẹ máa gbọ́ Chenxin, Chinchong, Chinchichi. Ibẹ̀ ni àwọn Igbo ti gbé àwọn CHI tiwọn yẹn. Ẹ máa rí àwọn Igbo náà wọ́n máa pe ọmọ wọn ní Chidi, Chinyere, Chichichichi. Assyrian Empire captivity ni wọ́n. Assyrian Empire captivity. Tẹ́ bá lọ sí South Africa náà ẹ máa rí àwọn náà máa ń lo bí Chi, Ngong, Ngong. Ẹ máa rí pé àwọn Assyrian àwọn Chinese, Japan, gbogbo wọn ló máa ń lo, wọ́n máa ń pronounce ọ̀rọ̀ báyẹn. Ngong, Chinyere, Chidi, Chenxin, Changan, Chingong. Ibẹ̀ làwọn Igbo. Ibẹ̀ wọ́n ti báwo yẹ pé ẹ̀bọ́n yẹn pronounce ọ̀rọ̀ wọn ṣá. Ibẹ̀ wọ́n ti gbé. Tẹ́ bá wo mode of dress àwọn Igbo. Ẹ wo mode of dress àwọn mode of dress wọn ní Thailand, Taiwan. Gbogbo ẹ rí i pé mode of dress Igbo àti àwọn yẹn almost the same thing. Kò sí yàtọ̀ rárá. Àwọn yẹn ni Assyrian Empire tó kó àwọn Northern Kingdom lẹ́rú. Tó jẹ́ pé àwọn Igbo, Calabar, Cross River, wá sí Cameroon, wá sí South Africa, títí dé Kenya, Northern Kingdom gbogbo wọn. Àwọn ni half of Northern Kingdom tó yẹ pé àwọn yẹn ò mix. Tẹ́ bá wo àwọn Igbo náà mix díẹ̀. Ẹ máa rí kíní Asia lára àwọn Igbo náà. Lára àwọn Igbo ẹ wò wọ́n dáadáa. Ẹ máa rí pé wọ́n máa ń pupa bákan. Igbo mi á pupa ó máa pupa sódì, ó máa fẹ́ di àfín. Assyrian Empire nìyẹn. Nǹkan tá Assyrian Empire ṣe sùn wọn lára nìyẹn. Àwọn Igbo àwọn náà ẹ máa rí wọ́n ti mix. Ẹ wojú wọn dáadáa. Àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá là mix mọ́ orílẹ̀-èdè mi lọ títí. Though àwọn kan wà nínú Yorùbá náà mix gbọ́n tí a pọ̀ rárá. Yorùbá ò sábà mix mọ́ orílẹ̀-èdè. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn Northern Kingdom wọ́n pọ̀ gan. So wọ́n ti mix mọ́ àwọn Assyrian Empire. Wọ́n ti mix mọ́ àwọn Assyrian. So ìdílé táwọn Igbo jẹ́ pé wọ́n máa pupa sódì. Ẹ máa rí features wọn. Ẹ máa rí features àwọn Asia lára wọn. Ẹ tún máa rí spiritually. Ẹ máa rí pé àwọn Igbo Asia wọn máa sábà lọ wọ́n pọ̀ lé Asia. Spiritually ẹ máa rí pé nǹkan kan fà wọ́n mọ́ bíi China gbogbo area yẹn. Nítorí pé àwọn yẹn ti kó wọn lẹ́rú rí. So gbogbo wọn tẹ́ rí inú fídíò gbogbo wọn tó ṣẹlẹ̀ sáwọn èèyàn wa wọ́n gbé orúkọ Israel yẹn wọ́n gbé sórí ara wọn. Crafty cancer tí wọ́n ṣe nìyẹn. Iṣẹ́ àrékérekè burúkú náà yìí fún wa. Àwa ni ẹ̀yà Judah ọmọ Yorùbá. Àwa ni wọ́n ń pè ní House of Judah. Ìran ládéládé House of Judah. Tribe mẹ́ta ni wá. Tribe mẹ́ta ló parapọ̀ tí wọ́n pè ní House of Judah. Ìran Tribe of Judah, Tribe of Levi, Tribe of Benjamin. Àwa ni Yorùbá, àwa náà ní ìran ládéládé, àwa náà ní ìran priest, Levi tribe, àwa náà ní. Àwọn Benin nìsín àwọn ni tribe kẹta tó fi ń pe gbogbo wa ní House of Judah. Ìdílé tó yẹ pé gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá wọn ti ń jọba láti ilẹ̀ Yorùbá títí dé Benin. Ẹ máa rí pé monarchical government la máa ń practice. Àwa tribe àwa mẹ́ta yẹn, àwa ni wọ́n ń pè ní House of Judah, àwa ní Yorùbá, Judah as a whole. Tribe mẹ́ta wọ́n máa ń pè ní Judah, House of Judah, tribe mẹ́ta, tribe of Judah, tribe of Levi àti tribe of Benjamin. Ní ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀ nígbà kan náà, láàrin wa náà ẹ máa rí àwọn kan, àwọn náà ti di Yorùbá pátápátá ni wọ́n ń ṣe Igbo mọ́. Àwọn ìran Igbo kan, àwọn Northern Kingdom kan wọ́n switch over sí ọ̀dọ̀ wa. But ẹ lè pè wọ́n ní Northern Kingdom nítorí pé tribe tó bá ti switch sí side kan, ó ti di tribe yẹn automatically. Nígbà King Asa, àwọn tribe, àwọn Ephraim, ìran Igbo, àwọn Igbo ní Ephraimite. Àwọn Igbo àwọn ní Ephraimite. Àwọn tribe Ephraim, Manasseh, Reuben, àwọn Northern Kingdom ni wọ́n. Kéékèèké ni wọ́n switch over sọ́dọ̀ wa. Ó dàbí bá a ṣe wà ní ìsìn nílùú Èkó. Bí gbogbo wọn ṣe wá sílùú Èkó yẹn, kó wá jẹ́ pé àwa ọmọ Yorùbá ní ìsìn abẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ń ṣe ìjọba wa. Automatically ẹ ní mọ ẹni tó jẹ́ Igbo mọ́, ẹ ní mọ ẹni tó jẹ́ Igbo, ẹ ní mọ ẹni tó jẹ́ Yorùbá mọ́. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ló ṣe nígbà King Asa. Àwọn tribe Igbo, Calabar, Manasseh, Reuben, Simeon, wọ́n switch over sí House of Judah. Wọ́n switch over sọ́dọ̀ àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá. So automatically wọ́n di Yorùbá. Automatically wọ́n di part of House of Judah. Wọ́n ń ṣe Northern Kingdom mọ́. But àti Northern Kingdom o àti Southern Kingdom o, ẹyọ kan ni wá. Israel ní gbogbo wa. Ìgbà King Rehoboam ni kingdom yẹn pín, ṣùgbọ́n ẹyọ kan yìí ni wá. Ìdílé tọ́lọ́run fi sọ pé nígbà tí ó bá yá, ó sọ pé the tabernacle of David that is falling, ó máa ṣe kíni, ó máa rebuild it. Kíni tabernacle David yẹn? Ó ní Northern Kingdom àti Southern Kingdom. Ọlọ́run kò máa sọ di ẹyọ kan padà. Ẹni tó bá láyè kó lọ ka book of Ezekiel chapter 37. Kó lọ sísàlẹ̀ ó máa rí. Ọlọ́run pé ó máa mú igi Judah, igi Ephraim ní Northern Kingdom. Àwọn ni wọ́n pè ní Northern Kingdom, Ephraimite. Àwọn ni wọ́n pè ní Ephraimite or Israeli. Ephraimite or Israel. Àwa Southern Kingdom wọ́n pè ní House of Judah. Ìkan làwa méjèèjì. So Ọlọ́run pé ní ìsìn àti House of Judah o àtàwọn Ephraimite o nígbà ìkẹyìn, ó máa sọ wọ́n di ẹyọ kan. Ó máa wá yan Jésù Kristi láti jẹ́ ọba lórí gbogbo wa. Ibi tí Jésù ti jọba lórí wa nìyẹn. Ó máa yan Jésù Kristi láti jọba lórí wa. Second coming Jésù Kristi ní ìsìn tí ó máa ṣẹlẹ̀. Ó mọ̀ pé to him shall the gathering of the people be. To Jesus Christ, tó ṣe olùgbàlà wa, tó jẹ́ pé wá láti tribe of Judah, tribe Yorùbá. Ìwọ́n sọ pé òun ló máa sọ wá di ẹyọ kan padà. The tabernacle of David that is falling. Ó ní Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. Ẹyọ kan ni wá tẹ́lẹ̀. Nígbà King Rehoboam, Ọlọ́run fún rẹ̀ split méjèèjì. Ọlọ́run wá sọ pé nígbà ìkẹyìn, ó máa kó gbogbo àti Northern Kingdom àti Southern Kingdom, ó máa sọ gbogbo ẹ̀dẹ̀ ẹyọ kan. Jésù Kristi ní ìsìn, òun ló máa wá jẹ́ ọba lórí gbogbo wa. Nítorí ẹ̀ ní ìwé book of Genesis 49, verse 8 títí dé 11 a máa kà ń bẹ̀. Ó pé to him shall the gathering of the people be. Ó mì pé Jésù Kristi nígbà tó bá wá padà second time ó máa sọ wá di ẹyọ kan. So àrékérekè tí àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè àjòjì ṣe fún wa ni àwa ni ìran Ísírẹ́lì ẹ jẹ́ ká dìde ká bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ké ìrere ó ṣe pàtàkì fún wa iṣẹ́ tí Ọlọ́run fún wa gangan nìyẹn o láti kó ẹ̀yà méjìlá láti kó wa láti ṣe kíni láti gather everything láti di ẹyọ kan padà again ṣùgbọ́n iṣẹ́ tọ́lọ́run fún Yorùbá ni pé Yorùbá nation Yorùbá gbọ́dọ̀ wà ọba òkè fún rẹ̀ ti split nation ó ti split northern kingdom àti southern kingdom ó pé nígbà Jésù Kristi ló máa sọdọ ẹyọ kan padà so ìdílé tó ó ṣe pàtàkì fún Yorùbá láti jẹ́ Yorùbá nation láti ṣe iṣẹ́ tọ́lọ́run fún wa a lè rí iṣẹ́ yẹn ṣe tí gbogbo wa confusion ọ̀rọ̀ wa ò tí ì yé wa èdè wa ò tí ì yéra confusion ló máa mú wa ṣùgbọ́n náà fẹ́ kí Yorùbá separate náà kó lè ṣe kíni kó lè unite systematically ẹ máa rí ọba òkè ó máa ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn ìdílé tó yẹ pé a lè lé àwọn Ìgbò kúrò lórílẹ̀‐èdè wa ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ṣùgbọ́n a gbọ́dọ̀ gba ìjọba kó jẹ́ wípé èdè wa là ń sọ system èdè tá a máa lò ní school Yorùbá ní everything ẹ máa rí automatically àwọn ẹ̀yà yòókù wọ́n máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ lọ́dọ̀ wa wọ́n máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ àwọn náà máa di Ọlọ́run fẹ́ èdè kan lọ́lọ́run fẹ́ kí gbogbo wa sọ Ọlọ́run pé nígbà ìkẹyìn ó máa return èdè tá a sọ ní Canaan èdè wo la sọ ní Canaan èdè Yorùbá ni èdè Yorùbá tẹ bá rí èdè Yorùbá ó wà so unique ó ní àwọn priest máa ń lò láti conduct ẹ̀sìn òun làwọn priest máa ń lò òun ni Ọlọ́run bá ó ní èdè Yorùbá lọ́lọ́run bá Moses lò èdè Yorùbá lọ́lọ́run fi communicate pẹ̀lú Moses tí Ọlọ́run pọ̀ máa òun fẹ́ return èdè yẹn èdè Yorùbá ni so ní ìsìn gbà tí Yorùbá nation bá wà ní ìsìn tá à ń sọ Yorùbá ẹ máa rí pé gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀yà yòókù náà automatically gradually wọ́n máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ń sọ Yorùbá nítorí pé kí ni wọ́n pọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ wa wọ́n pọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ wa kì í ṣe by chance Ọlọ́run ló ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ pé ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni most of them máa wá Ọlọ́run sọ ó wà ní book of Genesis 49 náà ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni most of them máa migrate wá nítorí pé kí ni Ọlọ́run dáwọ́ ọmọ Yorùbá yàtọ̀ Ọlọ́run fún wa ní ẹ̀bùn culture wa strong gan culture wa ohun tí òfin Ọlọ́run ti fi sí wa nú ẹ̀mí débi pé automatically even tá bá ka ìwé mímọ́ à ń practice most of the culture tọ́lọ́run ti sọ fún Moses most of the òfin tọ́lọ́run fún Moses pé ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ bọ̀wọ̀ fún bàbá àtìyá ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ ṣeré ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe automatically àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá máa ń lò ó ti wà nú ẹ̀mí wa so ara culture yìí ìsìn Ọlọ́run fẹ́ ká dá padà Ọlọ́run fẹ́ ká kọ́ àwọn ẹ̀yà mọ́kànlá yòókù so ó ṣe pàtàkì Yorùbá nation ìjọba tiwa ká bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí lo culture wa everything fully ibẹ̀ ni ìlọsíwájú ibẹ̀ ni àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè àjòjì ò ní lè ṣe kí ni wọ́n ní exploit wa mọ́ nígbà tó yẹ pé everything tá ń ṣe Yorùbá ni so kí Olúwa kó bùkún fún wa àmín lórúkọ Kristi.